Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our weekly catch up on what's been happening on Climate Transformed and what we've got coming up. This is a slightly different hit where rather than be Paul and Rupert, we've actually freshened things up and we've got McKenna with us. McKenna has been with us for about a month or so now and is my brilliant assistant head of content. McKenna, great to have you on this hit. Tell us a bit more about yourself and how you've come to be part of the Climate Transformed team.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to be part of Climate Transformed, and I'm glad you told everyone I'm not Paul. There might be some massive confusion there. And was always really interested in agricultural sciences and in the way that it comes out through food and fiber processing. I just see the huge opportunity there. So I've worked for a few companies in that manner and was originally from San Diego, where I worked for their Office of Sustainability. And then now I'm located in Austin, Texas.
And Austin, Texas, I think features in one of our future guests. I think that's not till September. I think you've got one of your former crew, Brian Corgle, joining us. But for narrowing the horizon back to what we've got coming up next week, and as we come to the end of July, and probably by the time most people are seeing this hit, it will be almost August. Do you want to fill us in on some of the events you've got booked in so far for August, McKenna?
Yeah, so the first one is Amazon. They are they were the first company to ever really introduce organic fair trade acai, but even though that's like their product, the way that they structure their company is really profound in that they just released their first climate impact report. Even though they're a privately held company, they don't have to do that, but just throughout their whole company, all of their priorities are really admirable in my sense. I actually got to go to their headquarters and see the behind the scenes, but more than half their company is women owned or women represented, and they sequester so much carbon throughout their supply chain, and they're more than 90%, they're like 96% diversion rate for their waste. It's really awesome. And through their fair trade programs, that's where I really got the deep dive into fair trade and the importance of it and how it does really bring in the environmental and the people kind of. That's where it.
Yeah, I mean, so they're clearly a company that's doing a lot of the right things. I think we're going to see more on this on a regulation front. We're going to see, you mentioned they've voluntarily done lots of these things so far. I think we're going to be an interesting phase coming up where you see the companies that actually get it and know what they're talking about when it comes to environmental issues and the broader ESG issues, and they're going to stand out more as their peers and the corporate world has more regulation placed on them. The likes of Amazon and other companies that have bought into this earlier on in the phase and have actually sort of understood the subject matter are going to outperform, certainly from an ESG perspective, but I'd be interested to see whether actually that translates into outperforming the share price perspective too.
Exactly. So and they have like a whole program to support green startups too, which is another sector we focus on. And I think I'm hoping that gets brought up in the discussion, and just like the different ways that they work directly with the Amazon and really conserving that land. But yeah, as far as the regulation goes, it is so important for these companies to kind of get a handle on that, and they will be explaining that as well.
Be early adopters. So that's Tuesday, 9th of August. You mentioned legal issues. Why don't you tell us about the legal startup talk you booked us in?
Yes. So with every green startup, there's always a big part of the raise of allocating money and whatnot goes to legal, because there's, especially if there's a new tech or if there's any sort of riskiness involved, a lot of money goes to that. And a lot of these green startups don't have that money. So it's really awesome. Molly, she's the director of Stanford's Sustainable Economy Initiative, and they provide, and they partner with legal law firms that provide pro bono services to these green startups in order to kind of help them on their pathway of getting launched and whatnot, because legal is a huge obstacle to getting that complete. So she'll be talking about those obstacles, overcoming them, and opportunities to collaborate with them and even participate for those startup listeners.
Well, that's great. And of course, so we've got Mandy and Marcy from Samazon on Tuesday, the 9th of August. And then, of course, you just mentioned Molly on Wednesday, the 17th of August. So it's great to see that Climate Transformed is doing good strides towards our goal here of having equal representation. So stellar work all around there, McKenna. Collaboration's a big part of what we do here, and we've actually got the next in our series of collaborations with Benchmark Mineral. That's next week. I'll be speaking to George Miller, who's their graphite expert. Graphite, probably best known for pencils, but actually has far more broader usage and is an important element in the anode anode production. And we'll be speaking to him. He'll be on Thursday, the 4th of August, to fill us in on the supply-demand dynamics of graphite, particularly as we're facing a situation coming up where anode demand is rising and seasonal maintenance, particularly in key production areas of China, is starting to kick in. It looks from what we've discussed so far as though supply demand is likely to get balanced next year if everything that's supposed to come on stream does. But as ever with these things, it doesn't take too many things to trip up or get delayed, and then suddenly you can be in a tight spot and a price spike. So yeah, looking forward to speaking to George in our latest collaboration with Benchmark Minerals. Then the final thing to touch in on is biochar, an event that you booked in, McKenna. So do you want to say a bit more about that one?
Yeah, so his company, Glanris, they do water filtration, but they use biochar in order to do that. And he'll be talking about how it's the lowest cost carbon sequestration means we have today. So I'm really interested to hear what makes that price difference so extreme, and also how their medium is through rice hulls, and that aligns with my agricultural sciences interests. So I'll be interested to see how that whole process runs and any obstacles that they're facing, and if this is so cheap, why isn't it being used on a more large scale and what?
Yeah, I don't think biochar is necessarily cheap. It's cheap versus other removals options. So that's what we'll probably hear more. There's an important separation where you've got offset, which are reductions of carbon emissions, and then actual ones that remove carbon out of the environment. Obviously, the ones that take carbon out of the environment are more beneficial to broader society, and actually by 2050, all carbon offsets are going to have to be removals based rather than reduction based. So biochar is a key part of that. So it's it'd be great to get Brian Eagle, who's the CEO of Glanris, on. That's Tuesday, the 16th of August. So yeah, you can see that McKenna has hit the ground running, and the Climate Transform team, she's been furiously contacting people. But equally, if you think you've got a business or know of a business that's is a worthy guest for us to give a light grilling to here on Climate Transform, we'll be keen to hear from you. So get in touch with us via the usual routes. But for this week, McKenna's debut on this hit, and probably more interesting for everyone else as a result, to spare another update from two white men. That's been I think that's us for today, us for this week, McKenna, unless you've got anything else you want to add before we close.
My last question is just which one are you most excited to hear from?
I think Samazon, as someone who spent a little bit of time in Brazil back in 2009, and I had a bit of affinity for Brazilian culture and of course the acai berry there. That I'll be looking forward to hearing from them and seeing how corporate can play a role in not just job creation but also working carefully and delicately with so such an important biosphere as the Amazon rainforest. So yeah, that's my choice. As ever, sign up on climatetransform.com, and you'll hopefully be seeing loads of flyers and other such media promoting the events on LinkedIn. But for this week, McKenna, brilliant. That was excellent. Glad to get you on, and having a good weekend, everyone, and see you all next week.
Goodbye.